Hello, possums. We're getting an early jump on the eclipse. It's the 25th here in Australia. So I'm sure we're going to see all sorts of extraordinary things unfold with these two eclipses. Now, I'll be brutally honest, viewers. It was hard to know where to start with this reading because so many things just happened overnight. But before I launch into all of that, thanks for all your wonderful comments. We had a bit of fun last week. If you missed last week's video, because someone had written somewhere, what is it with the GOP? Are they really, are they stupid? Are they crazy? Or are they just evil? Now, these aren't words we usually use on this channel, but we had a lot of fun with it. Thank you all. It took me 2 days to read them all. It was great. And I think it was therapy. I think we needed to have a vent and call it as it is, you know, in sort of street language. And now we need to raise our vibration again and look at higher things. Try and keep the moral high ground. Very hard to do when you're surrounded by these extraordinary people doing such extraordinarily nutty things. MTG, you can rely on her to give you something to chew on, can't you? I think she's just announced herself that she thinks she should be, or she alleges that the Yeti has asked her to be his running mate. Really? Really? I think you find if you ask the Yeti himself, he'd go, oh, she's not my type, you know. She'd be loyal, but that's about it, you know. But there's bottomless pit of nuttiness, you know. So I want to look at now. Trump has so many court cases, it's virtually impossible to keep track, but just the ones that have been talked about in the last 2 days, you have. Weisselberg, the accountant, is about to testify this week in that trial, which I will look at. Also, someone you may not be familiar with the name, Tom Barak. And Tom Barak's having his own criminal trial as we speak. And he's got his head in his hands going, business dealings with Trump were the worst thing I ever did. The problem being that he is being hauled over the legal coals because what they did posed a national security risk. And he was part of brokering deals with the United Arab Emirates on behalf of the Trumpoids. So I don't think I even have to say entertainment purposes only. I mean, I'm just outlining what's in the trial documents. And so he's giving evidence about that. And that doubles back into, remember all those backdoor channels, Manafort, Kushner, etc., remember? Those things are only just now arriving in legal land, you know. Okay, but we are going to have a little look at the New York State tax trial. Weisselberg did do a deal in the end to keep his aged butt out of jail. And he's expected to testify and actually say stuff. Now, this whole case, it's a bit of a problem because at the end of the day, they can't send people to jail. They can fine them and say you can't do business in New York for 5 years or 20 years. It's not really enough, is it? It's not actually right. But anyway, that's what we're dealing with. On the upside, a conviction could mean that he can't do business with the federal government. And that would be good because at the moment, he's still putting up all his security detail in his own properties and charging the government enormous sums of money. Why have they let this fool get this far? You know, oops, just bad shuffling. So I'm going to have a quick look. Weisselberg's testimony, will we learn anything new? Will it be big or will it just be a fart in the night. Yeah, let's have a look. Weiselberg's testimony. Here we go. He's going to reveal something. I think, look, he's going to be obliged to give up some information. This is the card of money laundering, and although this isn't the big money laundering case, I think what this card is talking about here is, giving little presents to those who work for the organisation, whether that's private school fees for the kids or a free apartment or a Mercedes-Benz for the missus. It's that type of stuff. Ace of Pentacles, otherwise known as Fool's Gold, right? The Magician's here, and I think they would already know, but it has to play out in the court, what he did to hide monies constantly, right? The magic he worked with the money. Now, bear in mind, this guy goes right back to Trump's father, Fred Trump. So he's a very practiced magician. Now, most very wealthy people find all this stuff normal. However, he does have to explain, the dirty tricks to some extent is what I'm trying to say. He's quite emotional at this stage. I don't think he's an emotional man by and large, but I think Michael Cohen would be the first to say when they start talking about putting your spouse in prison or, bringing the family into it. And I think there'd be plenty, particularly with one of his sons. I think that's what is driving him at this point to speak up. Crossroads. Now, they have a choice at this point. How hard do they push Weiselberg? What choice will they make? Allegedly, justice is blind. Yeah, right. So I think they're still at this late stage, and they've had years to think about this in legal terms. I think they're still trying to decide how hard they will go on Weiselberg. So yes, we will hear details about this, but I'm not getting excited by that, I have to say. Now, I do want to look at the E. Jean Carroll case. Funny how these things circle back round, aren't they? She obviously has something. You can't get a 30-year-old sexual assault case up unless you've got some physical evidence. It's the Monica Lewinsky frock scenario. So will they get his DNA? What will happen with that trial? Now, I'm going to look at that, but while I'm shuffling, did you see Kanye West, now known just as Ye, probably so he doesn't have to spell Kanye, has come forth and said he doesn't believe George Floyd was killed by Derek Chauvin, that he had a fentanyl overdose. I mean, really? So he took fentanyl, did he, and then threw himself on the footpath while someone kneeled on his neck for 9 minutes. And you might be the only person, left in the world who thinks that's what happened. I don't know what is going to happen with Kanye. Really, because I suspect the only reason he's got money to play with, I think the Kardashians are very good with money, nothing else, and they've probably been looking after his money for him. So if Kim decided to pull the rug on that, God knows what would happen, but we'll see. Anyway, denial of the George Floyd murder. All right, E. Jean Carroll. E. Jean Carroll. where's this case going to go? Well, I don't want to spend long on this because I don't think her lawyers and everyone else would have let it get this far without. So I'm seeing here she has 2 10s, which are final completion, which you want after all of this. She has said throughout, this is the crossroad. I think her legal advice was just go for a payout. And I think, as I understand it, let me know if I'm wrong, she said, no, I want him in court. I don't want to just go for the payout, or she could have done that. So I think there's a bit of a tussle behind the scenes between her and her legal people. She is going to get money in the end, but also this is the card of legacy. I think something about this case could permanently influence law or something like that. I think she's going to have a legacy over and above the money. He's going to lose, but he'll be so busy losing so many cases, I don't think he'll even notice this one. So she is going to leave a legacy, and she'll be satisfied at the end. Another 10. She'll be satisfied emotionally at the end of this process because she is doing it for principle. Well, you remember principles. People used to have them. Oh, God. And in other crazy news, I think this is beyond disgusting. Clarence Thomas, he's surpassed himself, I think, with this one. He's jumped in over the heads of everybody and has let Lindsey Graham off the hook by saying he doesn't have to testify in the Fani Willis case in Georgia. It's an out and out infringement of democracy right in front of our eyes. Let's hope this is one of the things they bring him undone for doing, because it's so blatant. And Lindsey Graham, Satan's poodle. How can this be? And I'm guessing if it's a Supreme Court justice who said it, that's the end. I don't know. But I'm going to look at this case because it's like a lot of the January 6th stuff, isn't it? That even if someone doesn't turn up or refuses to speak or anything, they've got the other half of the conversation. So Satan's poodle had to be talking to someone at the other end, and I think they've got the someone at the other end. So they almost don't need it, but it's not the point. The point is Clarence Thomas. Oh. So let's look. I've changed to the Toth deck, the Clarence Thomas and Lindsey Graham. Let's have a look. And then I've got some state races for you. Let's look. Clarence Thomas, new best friend to Lindsey, Queen of Swords, Graham. Oh, they're in for the long fight, aren't they? Oh, look. There's 2 aces here. Ace of Pentacles and Ace of Cups. So I think this is a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours scenario going on here. Clarence Thomas is sticking his neck out with this to some extent that he's not quite aware of himself, So this is a very murky Ace of Cups in the sense that there is, I just got it. Clarence Thomas actually knows the blackmail that's involved. I just heard he knows blackmail. Oh my God. Oh my God. Now, this is really entertainment only territory here. I don't think this was an accident. I think Lindsey Graham, see, wrapped here in the serpent's tail, I think he went to Judge Thomas and said, you need to do this for me because I know what you did, right? I know what you did last summer stuff, right? I think Lindsey Graham has pulled this out of the bag and threatened Thomas. I'm just saying, that was my hit. And so they've decided to go in together, swords blazing, risking everything. Now it sort of makes sense. I couldn't work out now the microscopes on the Supreme Court and stuff, why Justice Thomas would do this. I mean, obviously, with his wife being who she is and supporting the theft of the election and everything, it's not just that he's sympathetic. It's more than that. This is more aggressive than that. Oh, anyway, we may or may not ever hear about that, but just file it away for future reference. Oh my God, Lindsey Graham, stop at nothing. Okay, so I'm going to look at, there's Utah, Mike Lee, who's the incumbent, versus Evan McMullin. So Evan McMullin is an independent but a Democratic leading soul. Let's have a look at Utah. Before I get into Utah, you've got to see it if you haven't already on the Young Turks, the guy in Florida who is suing to have the Bible taken out of schools on the grounds that it talks about fornication, adultery, incest, everything, blood and gore, and it's not age appropriate. Good on him. Good on him. So we'd have to keep an eye on that case. It's brilliant. Okay, what am I doing? Utah, Mike Lee versus Evan McMullin. Utah, what are you going to do in this mix? So first of all, I'll do McMullin. Yuck. Now I'll do Mike Lee. Oh, sorry, I should be bringing you down. Oh, well, look, you only have to look at McMullin's cards to know that it's not good for him and a gift to the other side. Chained to the devil, meaning I think he's got some dirt or something. They're going all out to try and squash him. His message is confused. I don't think it's quite clear to people where he stands and what he represents. No, it'd just be a no, wouldn't it? On the other hand, the Republican gets the winner's card plus an ace of swords and 3 of pentacles. Working behind the scenes with people is paying off for him now. Ooh, shame. All right. Well, you know my mantra. Would love to be wrong. But I'm seeing Mike Lee get that. Now, the other one I was looking at was North Carolina Senate. Sherry Beasley versus Ted Budd. So is it Sherry or Cherry? Because I don't listen to many programs, I read them. So my mother's name was Cherry, so I'm going to call her Cherry, but she might be Cherie. Okay, Cherry Beasley, Democrat, versus Ted Budd, Republican. North Carolina Senate. I don't know any more about them than that. Cherry Beasley. I'll do Cherry Beasley first, followed by Ted Budd. North Carolina Senate. North Carolina Senate. Cherry Beasley. Oh, she's okay. So versus Ted Budd, North Carolina Senate. Ted Budd. Well, this is much more tricky to determine. I think this is a problem for the Dems. People aren't quite getting the message. Most people rarely prioritise foreign relations, rarely prioritise even something like losing the democracy in the United States. Oh no, as long as my gas prices don't go up, I don't care. What can you do? What can you do? This is not an overnight thing. This is 40 and 50 years of people becoming, just more either working really hard, they don't have time to think about it. I'm not being critical of people individually for doing it. I understand the pressures they're under, but this is a really important moment in history. And most people, I think, are still understandably on one level, but not on another. They're simply prioritising domestic things. And I think the Dems could actually come out on top if they were crystal clear, and they wheeled Katie Porter out every 20 minutes in every state to make it clear to people that it's corporate greed driving inflation, not anything the Dems are or are not doing. Shut up, Lena, just get on with it. Okay, so they're not clear in North Carolina quite about her message. Queen of Swords, she is having some cut through. Four of Swords. So I think it might be close that there has to be a recount in the sense of stopping at some point and doing a recount. Independence. I think this is going to be decided by independents, North Carolina, but that's a bigger thing. I think I have to read on that in a minute. I think the independents have a huge role. Ted Budd. He gets the Ace of Wands, which is good. He's in, a conservative sort of environment. He doesn't threaten people. They feel quite comfortable with him. But he gets the swords in the heart. And three parties. I think there'll be Dems, Republicans, but the independents will make that third one. Please. And everyone's been turning out. The numbers are huge. Numbers are huge. And Biden has been getting some messages across, like those who are criticising the student debt forgiveness, and he's clapped back and said, well, what about the corporate welfare? What about the millions of dollars that you guys got for COVID money that you had forgiven? Have to keep doing that, Dems. Okay. Speaking of corporate greed, the last Glenn Kirshner, if I can find the link, I'll put it up. It's only 5 minutes, and it's not a typical one of his. What the format is Glenn Kirshner the night before last was on another program saying what would be, his opinion on the Yetis cases, etc. And then he launches into this rave about ruling class con men and ruling class crime. And he's making that distinction that if you steal a car, broke a window, loot a shop, the full force of the law comes down. But if you do huge crimes like big energy companies, big pharma, big everything, it's just business as usual and profits to be made. And he makes that distinction between ruling class crime and chronic minor crime. And so in all the polls, people say, we're worried about crime, we're worried about crime, we're worried about... What they're talking about is smaller, persistent, aggravating neighbourhood crime, as opposed to being ripped off generation after generation. and Americans being denied their birthright to be free in the pursuit of happiness, So it's really quite interesting. I never thought I'd hear that language out of the lips of someone who's as fundamentally conservative as Glenn Kirshner. So go, Glenn. Before this all finishes, he'll be a frothing Marxist. Oh, my God. I'm loving this transition. Okay, what was I going to read on, people? Something else. Oh, the role of independence. The role of independence. Then I have to talk a bit about the Ukraine. Independence in the 2022 midterms. So what can you tell us about independence? Independence in the midterms. Okay. Now, where's my... I need some other cards here. Bear with me a moment. Okay. Let me think about this. What's this Five of Pentacles about here? Let me mutter. Very esoteric mumbling going on here. So, in the middle, the signifier of this reading is this Seven of Pentacles. This is the farmer. Have I done enough? Have I got enough of a harvest for the winter? This is about looking at everyone's story. Excuse me. Looking at literally both sides of the coin. Where do I sit in this changing landscape, political landscape of America? Really, see, independents possibly who are really thinking things through. So the Dems obviously have plenty to go for because there's been such ghastly attacks on democracy. So the traditional Dems are quite clear cut. The Republicans don't think at all ever and just run on emotion. So this is the independents. Okay. Now, this is the tension between what's underneath here with this Knight of Swords and the Emperor card. So I think they're going to vote in reaction or relation to the Yeti. So they're either, for some reason, 5 years on, thinking he's got something to offer. That can't be too many of the independents, surely. Otherwise, they'd be out and out Republicans. So I think the tension is between Trump and Trumpism and doing the right thing. This is social justice sword, as I see with these court cards. Fighting for social justice. This is the Roe versus Wade and other things. Queen of Wands, I'm getting the Stacey Abrams vibe, but it's also, it's the women, it's the female energy generally that is actually playing a considerable role. Why have we got this Five of Pentacles? Let me pull out my oracles and we'll get to the bottom of the Five of Pentacles, because that to me makes sense so far. They're assessing both sides. They're assessing the risks associated with the Yeti. They understand that social justice measures are being under threat. They understand that the abortion debate is code for Handmaid's Tale. I think they understand that the next off the rank will be contraception, followed by gay rights being rolled back. So they're concerned. They're concerned. But let's have a little look at this. Okay. That's kind of... Okay, I've got it now. I know what it means. This is the independents panicking about the loss of the American dream. To be honest with you, I don't think that's overstating it. I really think so. And this is, you know how so many of you guys have said how stressed and worried you are and stuff. Well, not without reason, you know, but that's what it is. It's them worrying about the loss of everything it meant in the good way. And so this is Fidelity, I tell you, right, sticking with the principles of what is great about America and representing hope. I want to cry. Oh my God. Oh, that's good. Well, go the independents. I really, really, really think look, you don't have to be a psychic to realize they're going to play a crucial role, but I think even more crucial than we sort of get at the moment. I think they're going to be really important. Oh my God. Now, just hang in there a moment. Making my way through the list here. Oh, yet another court case that the Yeti is involved in. 2008, some company invented a video phone. But remember the first cell phones, which were, you know, like bricks. It was this really clunky video phone. And of course, they bought it out. And very soon after that came smartphones, and it was redundant. But the Trumps, never letting an opportunity go by, continued to push it for 10 years, from 2008 to 2018, getting money for endorsing it. And I thought, when I first read about this case, I thought they meant just advertising it. Use this, you know, video phone, isn't it great? No, they were encouraging people to invest in it. This is what they do. And this is Ivanka's tour de force. That's what she's good at. Why don't you invest with me? I'm really rich and gorgeous, and you can be too. Stick with me. She's better at it than a father. Okay. So yeah, anyway, that court case is going ahead for cheating investors. A quick spin around the world. First of all, the UK. Now, I know months ago, I said Boris would go, Liz Truss would be put in, and she wouldn't be there long enough to change the letterhead on the paper. Really, she wouldn't. And the joke in the UK at the moment is lettuce lasts longer than Liz Truss. I love that. Who are they going to put in? They're going to put in the hideous Rishi Sunak, who is a hugely wealthy billionaire married to a hugely wealthy billionaire's daughter. They're going to flog the cryptocurrencies, you know, make off. He's the prince of cryptocurrency. I'll just remind you that when you are a member of British Parliament, you're not supposed to have citizenship or even residency, dual passports, any of that. He had a green card. Just forgot to put it on the paperwork, you know. Then he forgot to pay tax in the US and in the UK. You know what it's like? You get busy, you just forget. Gone. So he's another ethical giant they're putting in. So I don't think I can even be bothered reading on. Oh, I know what I should ask. This is going to be the last straw for the British public. I was talking to Hogarth the other day when we did the show. As you know, he's in London. So he said that the movement for petitioning for a new general election is underway. And it went from 250,000 signatures in the morning. By the next morning, it was 750,000 signatures. So will there be a general election? Otherwise, I think this is their fifth prime minister in 4 years or 3 years or something. Their next election is until 2025. And frankly, the country cannot keep going like it is. So will there be a general election? Otherwise, we don't even have to bother remembering his name. Because really, they just change them like they're underpants. Oh, and this isn't how the UK used to work, you know. Okay, general election. Let's have a look. Oh, money, money. Health surprise. Oh, these cards have been busy today. What do I think's going on here? To money and swords. So it's kind of literal rather than figurative. This is the legacy of bad decisions that have been made. This is the legacy of Brexit that is pushing people to want to demand an early election. Backroom deals are happening as we speak. You support this one, you support that one, let's do it. This is the people charging forward into the headwinds, well, into the cold headwinds of a cold winter. You know, they're not happy. Queen of Swords. Now, they haven't got the Queen to lean on anymore. I mean, King Charles, I'm sorry, just, doesn't have that same sort of comfort that Liz provided. Mightn't have been a comfort to me, but she was to many, 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 many millions. I think this could be more the Lady Justice sort of energy here. So what I think will happen is, yes, they will. And they're looking up the legal means as we speak, because people are really not prepared to put up with it anymore. So I doubt he'll be there for an extremely long time at all. I would say we'll revisit this early next year because nothing's going to happen right now. But I think there's a good chance next year they'll be forced to go to a general election. All right. Now, today is the eclipse. And I woke up having sort of, I won't say heart palpitations, but really worried about Ukraine from the point of view that a cornered Putinchka is a dangerous Putinchka. And apparently the Russians, although they're doing badly on the ground, are throwing all their air power. They are bombing the hell out of energy systems. This is very dangerous. It's very cruel, but dangerous because of the huge reactor. The reactor's already been cut off from electricity for several weeks and is running on generators, I think. So I'm going to have a look at Ukraine now. But the figures here are interesting. Since Putinchka announced he wanted 300,000 conscripts, which was code for anyone who can walk, it's had such a freak out. And I've never seen this. I've been around a long time and I haven't seen this where men of all ages are fleeing the country to not be conscripted. Some figures are as high as 700,000. That's not confirmed, but they're looking at 100,000 here, 200,000 there, 56,000 here. So they're going to Kazakhstan, they're going to Chechnya, they are going to Finland and Sweden, some into Ukraine itself. So this exodus is absolutely extraordinary. So let's have a look at the Ukraine-Russia scenario. Let's see what else I have here for you. Oh, yes. Okay. All right. Focus, Lena. Russia and Ukraine. Oh, yes. Oh, my word. Oh, goodness. Big, big story here. Now, the Toth deck, for those of you who don't know about it, it has a bad reputation from back in the 30s because Aleister Crowley, who designed it, was a bad boy. And I only use it in terms of difficult, horrible people. I wouldn't use it for a normal reading. So be aware of that. It's not for everyday reading, but it sure tells a story here. So look at this. Okay, now the Queen of Swords in this is reclining, sword in hand, having cut off the head here, right? It's full on imagery. So I think this is the thrust of Ptynchka's vision, if you like, what he wants to do. He just wants to get it done now. It should have happened before, and he's just crazy. This is a crazy act. He's looking at defeat. This has turned out to be actually all Russia rather than Ukraine even. Change. This is the card of change, Two of Pentacles, that is going to hit Russia. Knight of Wands. This could be the people of Russia rising up, or the people of Ukraine rising up to defend their own homeland, or a bit of both. When you think about, I hadn't thought of it in that way together. He's got it on two sides. The Ukrainians didn't roll over as he thought they would. NATO didn't ignore the conflict as he thought it would. And his people, he assumed, would be behind him all the way. And I think most people notice when their children have to leave the country, because otherwise they're going to be sent to their death, right? I think most people notice, even if they're quite conservative. I'm just saying. Okay, that's what he's up against. Six of Swords, look at this card. Right, everything's coming back to him. All the swords are coming back to him. Now, don't forget, whether you're talking about Russia, China, anywhere else that has a despotic regime, there's always excitement about, oh, what if there's an upheaval? What if there's a new leader? You can't always assume that the new one's going to be better, because regimes that are like that don't have an effective opposition who's ready to go. You know, people have been jailed and beaten and in exile, or, you know, people try and kill them. So they're not sort of government ready. And so I don't think this is going to be a rising up of the Russian people, and then in a year from now, it's going to be a swinging, breezy democratic bastion. I really don't think so. So it's got a way to go, but it's started. Now, speaking of such regimes, I don't know if you guys have still been following the Iranian protests, started by the young women and then joined by the older women. It's the grandmothers and their granddaughters. There is so many men in these protests too, supporting the women. It's heartening to see. It's just beautiful. But it's multiplying. It is not going away. It is multiplying. It is absolutely amazing. And they are so, so brave. And I just feel so soft by comparison, you know, with how brave these people have to be to have control over their own lives. So I'm going to finish this video in Persian. Azadi, which I hope is recognizable as the word for freedom. Azadi. See you all soon. Oh, no, stop. Don't turn me off. Hogarth, Lady G and I are doing a Halloween special that's not on Halloween, because I'm sure there'll be other ones. It'll be on American Saturday the 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be in Halloween gear. Okay. Keep the comments flowing. Bye, guys. Ciao.